Why did you become a chef?
Oh man. So when I was 8 years old, my parents took me to Italy. So I'm not kidding. From that moment on, I knew I wanted to be a chef. So I was 8 years old. They took me to Italy. I've never been to Italy before. My grandmother and grandfather are still alive, and they were there. And it's just the way that they think of food, the way that they interact with food, the way that they grow up around food. It's like it's the feeling I've wanted the rest of my life. Like, knowing where your food comes from, knowing that you can use the entire animal and not feel bad, like the best thing about Italians and the best thing about French is the way that they cook is that they use the cheapest products and they sell the expensive stuff to the Americans. And I love every minute of it. So it was one of those things where I was like, I would go there and we would have, pig's lips, pig's nose, cow feet, and you would have this stuff and it was just pickled in a little lemon juice and a ton of salt. And it was like one of the best things I've ever had in my life. And I've wanted that feeling my entire life after I left there. So fast forward until I was 13 years old, I'm at my buddy's pool party and his uncle's there. His uncle just opened a brand new restaurant and he goes, "Hey, how about you come and wash dishes for me?" So I was like, "Listen, man, I'm a hot commodity, man. I need $50 a shift and an order of fried calamari." And he goes, "Deal." So I was good on that for a couple of months and then decided that washing dishes was fun and I got to learn a lot of the food because for me, it's my mind's always moving. It's what's next, what's next, what's next, what's next, which is a blessing, but also a sin in a lot of reasons because you can never enjoy the moment that way. But while I was washing dishes, I'm like, all right, well, why are these guys making food this way? So I would spend so much time in the kitchen that my boss would get so upset because there's stacks of dishes piling in the bathroom in the dish room. Meanwhile, all I want to do is just learn how to make chicken scarpiello the correct way. So little by little, then one day, I think it was like 3 or 4 months in, one of our line cooks calls out for the night. And then this was before calling out was even a thing. I mean, like you call out, like you somebody was dead, So so he goes, "Dude, you're up." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm up?" He's like, "Well, you've been staring the whole freaking time. Look at that dish room. Go cook." So from that point on, I cooked literally almost every day since 1998. I've cooked almost every day. I mean, I even when I was finishing high school, I would spend most of my days in the restaurant. I still graduated with high honors. I was a very good student, but for me, it always academics always came so natural. So like it was one of those things where when I would go to school, I'm like, "You're telling me you're making 40 grand a year and I could go make 40 grand a year right now just going to cook for 20 minutes. I'm like, I'd rather just go to work." And I would always have that. I would always have that little, animosity towards school because it was just like, I can cook and I'm good at it. And you're telling me that I need to learn what the square root of 48 is. I was like, I'm never going to need that in my life, and then they want me to carry it to the 17th decimal point. I'm like, I don't need that. I don't need one after the second one when it comes to percentages. I don't really need it. And I got a different type of schooling as a kid. I got the schooling of working in a restaurant environment. And then I got the schooling of working in, and then going to school. And it was totally different. You know what I mean? Like to me, I always knew I wanted to be my own boss. I always wanted to work for myself. I wanted to do things. I wanted to get to that next level and own as many restaurants as I possibly can without, absolutely killing ourselves. But it was a very interesting upbringing for sure. Growing up in the, I would tell people all the time, I was like, I went to the University of Bella Luna and that was the restaurant I was working for when I was in high school.
What's important, taste or food presentation?
You asked me that question 10 years ago. I would say presentation. I spent so much time on presenting food correctly. And I'm telling you, man, it wasn't until I opened my restaurant in Connecticut called Bar Sugo where presentation was important. But for me, it's like, if the food don't taste good, what's the point? So that's where a lot of my style of cooking lately has changed, right? It's like, especially with what's happening in the world right now, right? You can't find staff. So you have to make things you not necessarily want to make the food dumber, but you have to basically the plating has to get a little dumber. So for me right now, 1000%, it's all about flavor. Some of my favorite restaurants now are mom and pop places where literally like they don't present it at all. It's food on a plate. I ate a restaurant 2 weeks ago that blew my mind. It was a Puerto Rican restaurant, and they served on paper plates. This is fantastic. I'm like, how much money I'd save if I go to paper? So yeah, it's all about flavor now. No more. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. I'll present the food nicely, but like it's all about flavor.
Is there a particular food item that you eat that is embarrassing?
I love peanut butter, and I love just like any kind of nut butter whatsoever. So, and I love pretzels because it's salty. So anything salty and sweet, I'm all